We're recording. Can you state your name, age, and the year you graduated SAIC?
Well, okay. Well, my name is Raquel, and I am 24, and I graduated SAIC in May 13th, 2019.
Okay. And why did you originally come to SAIC?
Well, I originally went over to SAIC as a transfer in 2015, 2015. And I was transferring from a different art school from Michigan. And but before Michigan, I kind of graduated from Puerto Rico, my hometown. Over there, born and raised there, families from there, everybody's there, and then kind of came from there. Figured out that SAIC kind of was very aligned in the overall philosophy of how to work, how to art, and it made sense to me in that regard. And I saw SAIC and I was like, oh, it's possible. So I went there in that sense. It didn't make sense for me to stay in Michigan, even though they did offer a lot for me and a lot of opportunities, but I felt that I wasn't gonna be as happy with my work in terms of the ways that I could mix in all these disciplines and just really mess up a lot and really experiment with all the different possibilities and the different mixed up departments that I could do. Was at SAC, and it's just like why I came in there.
Yeah. Okay, that's so good. I know it's like definitely hard to transfer schools. It's like always like a frustrating process.
It is. It is. In fact, that was one of those things that I underestimated. Absolutely, like as a transfer is one of those things that I did underestimate it. Socially, is something that you have to expect some sort of a emotional, social, economic transition too. For everybody, and at least for me, it was really challenging in that regard, and like really trying to understand where you're at. Not a city person, and back home I live on a mountain, and miss my place a lot, and I miss my island a lot, and coming in here, it was a little overwhelming, but at the same time, I guess the only thing that I could connect a little bit with home was a body of water, and the public transportation. Since I take the bus, the public transportation since I'm in seventh grade. So it's kind of like connected in a couple ways, couple episodes on of Chicago. And so in that sense, that was challenging, I would say. But at the same time, what kept me kind of sane during that transition really it's just the freedom that I was looking for in a school in terms of how to work, the interdisciplinarity situation. And yeah, I think, I don't know, what did that answer completely?
No, that was so good. Thank you. What would you say was your like focus that you were doing? Oh, and also, can you talk about when you came to SAC, did you come in as a international student? Like, is that what they thought of you as?
So they thought of interesting. So there a couple questions there. So keep me on check on that. So I don't miss anything. Okay. So definitely the the domestic idea situation. I'm sure that this is like a confusion in so many so many institutions and so many overall with Puerto Rico, right? And Puerto Rico, I don't know in general from where in Puerto Rico we have this mindset of we are part of the state. Like we are part of the United States and whatever, and that's the situation. So we are supposed to be considered domestic.
Okay, yeah. So that's what I thought. But does the school not act like? Because I feel like they've done that to a lot of my friends that like do come from like places similar to Puerto Rico. Like it's. So, like, did they give you, like, the domestic tuition price, or no?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, like, okay. I thought at first that I was it's weird. It's really funny because at first when I came in, I was like, oh, am I supposed? I didn't even know at the first place. It was very confusing. Overall, the status of Puerto Rico is really confusing to an extent. But at the same time, I was like, well, international at first. But then they kind of, there's some research kind of situation. Is like, oh, okay, well, I guess we are in the same page. Yeah. I guess domestic. So yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad they fixed that. Because I know that like the international price is a lot different, which sucks. It's like the out of state versus in state when you're like doing like regular state schools.
Right.
So, but then the other question was, what did you come to study?
So I do come from a lot of super traditional drawing and painting. From a public specialized in art high school back in Puerto Rico. That's kind of like where I really had that very strong formation, like formal into the art visually and traditionally. And that's kind of like how ever since then I was like very interested in mixed media, very interested in a lot of connecting with a lot of different departments, and really overall really sharing all those boundaries. And that's kind of like how I had a great opportunity with the other school in Michigan, and that's kind of like how I wanted really, that I had a lot of hunger of crossing all those disciplines, which unfortunately didn't have that experience there. And then that's how I came into SAIC and discovered film. And I got so excited about film. It's really one of those, that particular department that kind of led me to connect with, especially with drawing, and really a little bit of everything, performance as well. I had a lot of fun with that as well, and overall having that availability between all of those needs in your studio time and in your studio overall discovery and experimentation, that really allowed me to connect overall in that way. So I do a little bit of everything still, but mainly film became a foundation in top of drawing and painting.
Gotcha. So would you like to be called an interdisciplinary student or like past student, or do you want to be considered as like film, drawing, painting?
I would consider myself interdisciplinary because I'm still discovering different departments all the time, different disciplines, different materials and processes all the time. Interdisciplinary might not be that word that a lot of people connect to, though. It's definitely a word that a lot of people from the creative community do connect with. So it's definitely a word, an exclusive word, from the creative community, and especially the elite creative community, which is like an interesting kind of conversation there. But yeah, it's definitely, it's not a very like it's a word that is not for everyone. If you're interested into the business world, in terms of rearranging your own vocabularies, of defining yourself as an artist when you're depending on your audience kind of situation. So yeah, but I do consider myself interdisciplinary.
Okay. Do you feel like your experience in those areas were like, how was that experience in those areas?
On which areas exactly? Like,
you can talk about any of them, honestly. Like either film, drawing. Not many people talk about film, actually, which is a little sad to me. Like I have one friend that I know that is in the film focus area, but like it's not something that a lot of people think about, I don't think, at SAIC. Like I think they think about like recording your performance, but I don't think they think about film being art and making like art related films as much. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, and I at first obviously I wasn't very involved into the technicalities about slash like photography or film or anything like that, but I kind of connected even more with like foundation wise, in terms of like drawing, how I connected more with drawing. Something really interesting that I kind of noticed as well in between many students who are very specialists into the drawing and painting kind of foundational traditional aspects, they tend to connect either with animation or the actual traditional film. That's a pattern that I've seen a lot. Of course, not everybody is like that, but that's a common pattern that I've seen. In fact, I did try animation though, and that's when I figured animation is not for me.
It is hard. It's a lot of work.
It is hard.
And it's so time consuming because you have to do so many things, so many little things. It's just a lot.
Yeah, and it's just how, like, you know, as a drawer or as a traditional, a drawing person, that's something that's very important for you to understand if you're into that or not, or if you overall stamina, the stamina that you compromise with the traditional drawing, versus that is a whole different world. Stamina and you lose a lot of calories drawing.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's kind of like how I knew.
Yeah, how would you say your critiques were? Like, did you ever have any issues with your critiques, or did you enjoy them?
I enjoy them. I do enjoy them. I do, it's something that I always okay, it's just like the overall critique, the critique that I come from in my art school from Puerto Rico in high school, that I did have a strong foundation and just an overall foundation and critique there, where it was just way more rough in terms of like, Raquel, you need to do this drawing again, kind of situation. This is like in front of, like, the same thing we do at SAIC, like in front of everybody. Raquel, this piece, doesn't really seem finished, whatever, because it was a very technical aspect at that point in that foundation at that school. So it was very, technical based, not very conceptual still. So it was like, Raquel, I think you really need to do this again. I don't know how you're going to fix that. How are you thinking? Like, it was just, way more than what I've kind of experienced. And then from there, kind of moved on. And then in SAIC, it was, I did quite enjoy the multi-dimensional aspects of critique. I was very used to the very technique kind of based critique, and then now here you have all these multi-dimensional aspects of critique, and I think it's really, you have to expect to be called out. You have to expect to be on the spot, whatever way that is, and to really expect that you're gonna learn, and you're just gonna unlearn. And during that process, and not everybody loves that space of I understand how, not everybody might love that critique time kind of space. It's a vulnerable space, where everybody might see things on each other's work that, they might not have seen with their own eyes, and it's just really valuable in that regard. But it's really up to you. I think it's really up to the students on, like, the quality of the critique, in a sense. And even if the instructor is not leading the critique in a very productive way, well, maybe it's really up to the students in that way to kind of lead it. I mean, it's ultimately it's kind of your class, your money. You kind of have to make the most out of your critiques, even if the instructor is not. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like recently, at least like in my critiques when I was first starting at SCIC, I don't think a lot of people were comfortable with calling people out yet. I guess they were like teetering on the fence of like, is this what it's supposed to be, or is this what it's like, what is it? And then I had a teacher one time, they said, when you're doing a critique, assume that everything that you're looking at is intentional, and then critique what you are seeing. Because what a lot of people would do is be like, oh, you could have done this, or like, you should have done this, instead of talking about what they're looking at and not really giving them feedback on what's actually there, but they're giving them feedback on what the person wants to see, which sometimes isn't really like what is needed. Like, I feel like that can maybe come at the end, but maybe talking about like how this actual thing is like speaking to you and not putting on it your expectations. I feel like that's something that's definitely happened a lot that I've seen. I wish some people would call people out more. Like, I'm glad to hear you say it, but I don't, like, and I'm glad to hear that, like, you experience it. I wish that, like, I could see it more. Because I just feel like a lot of people get away with a lot of things now. I don't know. Like, and, like, you didn't even, like, you graduated, like, it's 2020, last year. So it's just, like, interesting.
Yeah. Can I tell you something real quick?
Yeah.
Because something about that, something else about that is that it's just, you have to remember also to expect before actually going into a critique, something that I just, I don't know if most people know, or but at least something that I really try to remind myself, and we're all human, and we do have our reactions, and kind of trying to be professional kind of situation, but at the same time, it's not personal.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're in a critique, it's just not personal. It's just something that, like, even I have to remind myself, because you do get so attached to your work.
It's like it's like a child, or like your baby.
Yeah,
or like part of you.
100%.
Yeah.
100%, and you know, it's hard, but at the same time, I hear so many people defining critique as if it's a space of defending your work, of like defense kind of atmosphere. Like a lot of I'm not sure if I'm explaining myself, but a very defensive space in terms of, like, I don't know, because again, well, you do have that space to let your work kind of expose itself, and allow people to do whatever, say whatever, and really kind of the only opportunity of really express whatever is needed about your work is when the questions arise, right? When the questions happen. And I feel like it's a very difficult and vulnerable space for you to then see it as defending your work, because that also might take away of the objectiveness. Like when you feel that you have to defend something, at the same time kind of makes you humanly defend your work. And I feel like, again, that letting go that space of like it just being called out, and allowing yourself to be called out in a way that it's not, I'm talking about it like this, but it's not easy. I found myself in that regard too, and yeah, that's I feel like that's overall the critique layer of challenge there.
Yeah, hopefully I guess I'm hoping that, like, if like whoever watches these videos, like, understand or like get like a grasp about those things, because I know, like, not everyone comes from like an art high school, or like just like an art school previously. Like maybe like the thing of critiques, it is difficult to understand or like to really get a grasp on sometimes, but because I know a lot of teachers actually don't really talk about it. Like, some of them do. Thankfully, the teachers I had really explained them, and like made us watch videos about like silent critiques, and how like there shouldn't be a silent critique, and how like you need to talk about different things. But I've definitely interviewed a lot of people that didn't get that talk, and it was just sitting silently for 30 minutes. I just feel like that's just so terrible and boring. Because, like, you have these people for free to critique your work on how to, like, improve it and how to get your message across for free. Well, not really. You're paying, like, $5,000 for that class. But, like, these are the people you have access to. And, like, these are, like, your greatest tools besides, like, your own self. So.
Exactly. No, and how about, like, how to, like, planning a little bit your return on investment of your 4K class? Making sure of, like, well, this is not really an assignment. It's it's an actual project that I'm interested in doing in real life. That's another. I don't know. I know you didn't really do a question about this, but but in that regard, on a 4K class, or maybe it's not necessarily, you don't take it as an assignment, but it's an actual project maybe that you're doing in real life that is very relevant to your career as an artist. And then really examining the idea of like, how does this work? Would this be a real project that would make sense in order to achieve A and B in 5 years? On how would the contemporary art world will visualize this in 5 years? Does this make sense? Like, does this add up in value on whatever topic you're talking about, on how it will make sense career-wise to you as an artist? And something as tangible as possible to understand, in order to get that 4K worth it. So I don't know.
Yeah. Do you have a class that you didn't enjoy, or a class that you loved, or both?
A class that I didn't enjoy. Well, that I didn't enjoy. Well, definitely that animation. I was so excited to to really dive in. I was kind of discouraged a little bit that, well, I couldn't make it happen. This time it was just not meant for me. So I guess we'll move on. But like, I did not have like, it in that regard, that class, I was just like, really, I had a lot of expectations. I had really high expectations for that class. But that's about it. But a class that I really loved. I think I really did love Sonic and Optics. I have to say, the Sonic and Optic class is a film class. That is just perfect for if you're a traditional drawing and painting a student, is just, and you're interested about film, if it's right for you. And I think it's just great, especially from that I did learn a lot from Daniel Wilmot. I really think she's really amazing on what she knows in terms of the super technicalities of film. I did learn a lot from her in that regard. She also had like a very interesting, suggestive structure of how to critique as well. I don't remember in the top of my head like exactly how she did it, but it's like, first, just like impressions, just no suggestions, but like just first time impression, like cold reads almost. And then she will break it down in different layers of the conversation. Oh, we haven't gotten to that conversation yet on suggestions or room for improvement situations. And it was very kind of fluid in that regard to me. I felt like it was really productive, and especially if you don't know anything about film. In Sonic and Optics, with Daniel Wilmot, I learned a lot. You actually get to get into the real production situation, where every collectively, how every single people has like an actual role, and you actually get to experience how it actually is to make a little short film happen. And you get called out a lot because of that, because you never done film. And it's definitely that a lot of space to learn there overall. This is like really exciting class.
That's cool. I haven't had someone recommend that, so that's nice.
Yes.
Okay, let's see, what is my next question? Do you like the school as it is, or would you change anything about it? SAIC meaning.
SAIC. I do like the school to an extent. I think, as in every institution, there's just like always something that needs to be better, in every single way. And simply, I just honestly, there's definitely something I don't like about SAIC. Absolutely. And at the same time, there's definitely that space of like, this is an accomplishment in terms of like, wow, I understand why I came here, and it makes sense why I came here, and it kind of fills in that space. In that regard.
Okay. Has your view of the school changed since you graduated?
Yeah, I think so. I think the view that currently SAAC has, or not to talk about SAAC as a whole. I'm not sure about the true intentions of how the brand, really currently ideals or creates as an ideal the the students overall, and kind of really thinking a little bit ahead about their career, as an artist especially. And I remember being in a class, and really I think it was some professional practices class, right? And I really thought that class that was really interesting, because it's like, oh, okay, well, this is really straightforward. It's a class for me to frame and shape my career as an artist. Okay, this makes sense. I'm going here for that. It's a plan. And then what my plan is still currently is, ever since then, is to really make in the future a company, an artist run company, where I can just like have all my different projects running, different exhibitions running, and as an artist, hopefully at some point. And I was looking for actual feedback about that, how to make your own business as an artist. And that's what my YouTube channel is about too. And it's something that I'm actually, currently working on for quite a while, and how to make that happen. And I remember the hesitation of this professor, where I told him my goal, and it just wouldn't understand. Couldn't I feel like I wasn't understood in that regard. On oh, I just want to make a business to support my art, and rely on it sustainably. And it feels like the current repetitive model of like sustaining yourself as an artist. And it might be just like a gallery residency or teacher kind of expected pattern. And that's what I was trying to explain. And it was just like a repetitive, hesitation of like, no, it's kind of as if it's expected for artists to just do these, have these options, not having your own business. Because you're an artist, you're supposed to rely on other institutions, and not necessarily. And that is pretty much what I was, that would be my disappointment of one of my classes. So kind of not being afraid about having a business minded institution that can lead students to make their own thing, and not necessarily relying on other institutions. They can be their own institutions. In fact, I think we are in an era where they are. They don't know it. And yeah, that would be my disappointment on that class.
Yeah. I do notice that that's not something that they push, like to have your own business, because I feel like the generation that currently teaches at SAIC, or just like the generation that runs SAIC, they came from like the don't be a starving artist, so join an institution to not be a starving artist, and to like conform with like how normal people have like normal jobs, like to follow some kind of something so that you're not a starving artist. I feel like that's where they came from. But now it's like we don't really want to do that. It's like it's just not sustainable sometimes, and it's just not like the galleries are just like places, or sometimes it's just like not a path for a certain person. Like I don't think everyone needs to go be at a gallery, or because like sometimes galleries suck. Like they take so much of your cut, and just like that means you have to like charge for your art like 10 times as much just so you can make some kind of living. It's like, and they don't really talk about that. And it's like why can't I just have a successful business? Like a lot of people make their own prints, sell their own art.
Yeah. So that's definitely something that I just sort of was that SAAC had that space, or challenging themselves a little bit on expanding business models, besides the como being part of a gallery, or having to be part of an institution to survive.
Or like protecting yourself too, like how to protect yourself, how to protect your art. I don't think that's talked about enough at all, like in any of the programs. Like even in fashion, they don't really talk about how to protect your stuff when people are doing stylist pulls, or like that you should have a contract or like a pull fee, or it's just, I don't know why they're not discussing this. I feel like it's like it's a class that I feel like so many people would want to take with the right person teaching it, mind you. I don't know. Like I really hope that is something that they'll do. But I mean, thankfully there is YouTube, so.
I did have this great teacher on it was a business class. It was called entrepreneurship.
Oh, I feel like I've heard of that class.
With Stephen Wang. He's great. Yeah, he had another opportunity later, unfortunately. So I only met him once in one class, but it was great. It was like very real with you in terms of like trying to bring your own proposal as an artist, and like how to kind of like potentially make your own kind of business in that regard. So I would say that would be like the only class that I really truly enjoyed. If you're an artist that wants to depend on yourself, that want to make your own business as an artist, still making your art and at the same time sustaining yourself. I think that was like one of those classes that was in line with what I was looking for.
Oh, that's good. I wonder if it's still around. I know I heard of it like a while ago, like maybe my freshman year, but I don't know. I'll look it up though. I would hope that it's still around.
No.
But I guess to end, I'll ask you if you have anything else you wanted to say, but do you have any advice for people that are looking at SAIC or that are coming already?
That are kind of looking towards the possibility to go to SAIC? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, to SAIC, if you're a transfer, definitely expect some like emotional, social, and economic challenges in that transition. Make sure you're prepared for that. Make sure, I would say something I wish I did was like really connect with somebody, really getting to know somebody from Chicago who was maybe potentially a transfer. Really try to connect. I'm an introvert. I do my best to kind of like reach out to people, right? And really trying your best to really reach out to people, especially if you're in the similar situation as you, so you can connect to people, especially during transfer, so both can transition and y'all can distribute challenges together and really go through that together, so you're not alone in that process. I think that's something that I should have done, and I wish I could have connected more with people, especially at that point. So that's kind of like as a way to really overcome that challenge. And trying to see I think another thing too, I do suggest you to, when you do an assignment, I would suggest people really not taking it as just an assignment, but as a relevant project that is going to make sense with your career in the future, even if you're not sure. Really trying to wrap around how do you see yourself a little bit 2 years, 3 years ahead of you in a way that you can potentially make sense those classes in the future in your actual career in the real world, and making sure that as a way to really make those assignments productive in a relevant way to your life as an artist during and after school. But yeah, I don't have anything in mind at the moment to add.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh yes, thank you so much for reaching out. For people that are potentially watching, you did reach out to me to be part of this, so I'm so happy, because not many people, actually you're the only person that has like reached out to me to be part of this. So I'm so thankful, because it's hard to search for people. to be a part of it. I'm still looking for other people that people have asked me to interview. So it's just, especially like with moving at the moment, it's hard to like.
Later we could talk. I might have a couple people in mind that you could reach out to, that I know that they recently graduated actually on during the pandemic. I do know a couple people that maybe you might be interested in.
Okay. Yeah.
But so I was I forgot real quick what I was gonna say. But it's not here with me at the moment. But I'm so I'm just so grateful to. I think I reached out to you. I saw your work. I watched as much of your like video series about talking about SAIC. I think you probably know this, but this is some really important work. Oh. That's why I reached out, because it's just like in the long run, it's really you're doing very important work here. Just want you to know, keep on going with this, and this is gold what you have here in this series. Oh. So and as a current student, I believe you're a current student at the AC too, right? Yeah, no, that's awesome. And that it's really exciting. You're in a very exciting position right now with what you're doing, so that's why I'm like, you don't understand.
Well, thank you. That's so nice. Oh, like my face is so like red. But thank you. That's so nice. Oh. Well, let's say bye to people potentially watching, and then I'll stop it.
But I hope this was helpful. Nice to meet you.
Yes.
Bye-bye.